Hi, Sharks. This morning I'm going to read a story called Pumpkin Town, and we're going to be learning about planting seeds and how things grow. And this is about a family that grows pumpkins. And are a fruit that starts from a seed. The author is Katie McKee, and the illustrator is Pablo Bernasconi. Pumpkin Town. Jose and his family grew pumpkins. That growing began with shiny seeds, which were followed by long vines, and those vines grew every which way. The pumpkins grew every which way, too, from small to fat and tall. The Jack-be Littles could be dropped into pockets. Those are tiny little pumpkins. The Happy Jacks were bigger. A strong enough boy could carry just one. So those are kind of the medium-sized pumpkins. And then the Big Moons were bigger still, too large for 5 boys to roll. So they have the Jack-be Littles, the Happy Jacks, and the Big Moons. Come fall, Jose and his family would gather the pumpkins and collect the vines. Then 2 trucks took the fruit to faraway cities. Some were hollowed and carved, and some were saved for pies. But before the trucks took the pumpkins, Jose and his family saved a few. They needed the seeds. When it came to saving pumpkins, Jose's father always said, "Save only the best and sell the rest." So Jose and his brothers hollowed the best pumpkins and saved only the biggest and brightest seeds. They took the duller, smaller seeds to the edge of the field overlooking the town and tossed them. But one gusty, dusty October day, when Jose and his brothers took the lesser seeds to the edge of the field and flung them, the wind caught those seeds and carried them and didn't let them loose until they fell like rain down on a distant town. The seeds slipped into straw roofs and settled into flower pots and sprinkled gardens. But the next spring, rain awoke those small seeds, and plants began. More rain fell, and vines grew every which way. They wrapped around chimneys and wound through corn. At first, the townspeople liked the vines, for they were lovely and delicate. But when the vines began to climb, up and down and around, growing leafy and thick, they snaked green and silent through one window and then out another. So the vines are taking over the town. Then fruit grew and grew and grew every which way. Soon the townspeople were stepping over pumpkins and around pumpkins and under pumpkins. It was hard to even walk one block. Rooftops sagged under the weight of the big moons. Fences fell, and when the wind blew, one had to dodge Happy Jacks. Remember, Happy Jacks are the little tiny ones. And Jack-be Littles falling from trees. Nothing is worse than pumpkins, groaned the townspeople. Remember, the big moons are the biggest. The Happy Jacks are kind of in the middle, and the Jack-be Littles are those little tiny ones. So look at all those pumpkins. That's a lot of pumpkins. Meanwhile, up on their mountainside, Jose and his family cut and stacked their pumpkins, saving only the best. And when they were done, they stepped back and said, "Nothing is better than pumpkins." But when Jose and his family looked down in the town, it looked odd. That means unusual or different. It seemed to be so green and orange. If you look down there, the whole town is covered with pumpkins. Since their field work was done, and because Jose and his brothers were curious, they walked to the town the next day. where they saw more vines and pumpkins than they'd ever imagined. They remembered the gusty, dusty day that they'd scattered the seeds. "It's our fault," whispered Jose. "We must do something," whispered his brothers. "We rest for now," whispered Jose. So they're going to do something. They have to fix it. But that night, Jose and his brothers cut and stacked the pumpkins and vines. They worked as quietly as they could, but some townspeople still sneaked peeks. They marveled at how well the brothers worked. The brothers climbed up poles, twined through trees, and snaked silent through one window and out another, gathering and stacking pumpkins and vines. They're working all night long. They know they have to fix it. When the townspeople awoke, they discovered a mountain of pumpkins and a hill of vines and a mound of tired brothers. You can see just their feet. They're sleeping over here. While the brothers slept, the townspeople filled a wagon with hay and set 5 great watermelons between Jose and his brothers. In thanks for their aid, that wagon took the brothers back to their home, where they were laid in the glossy grass while sleeping. When their father found them there, he asked what they had done to deserve the great watermelons. "We just helped the townspeople with their harvest," the brother said, which was true, and nothing more was said. Down in the town, 5 trucks came for the mountains of pumpkins, and the townspeople were given a grand sum of money for all that fruit. "Ah, nothing is better than pumpkins," they said. Much of the money went toward a feast. They had a celebration, held around a bonfire made by burning the hill of vines. It was decided then that the rest of the pumpkin money would be spent to carve a statue of the 5 mysterious brothers who had made a mountain of pumpkins. Look at all those pumpkins. It's a lot of pumpkins. It took all of the next week for the townspeople to repair their roofs and their fences, and it took all of that week for Jose and his brothers and his father to eat the great gifts. Look at those watermelon slices. Don't those look delicious? The melons were so sweet that Jose and his family said, "Nothing is better than watermelons." "Be careful with the seeds," Jose's father said. "Our fields grow pumpkins, not watermelons." So Jose's family filled a great bowl with seeds, and those seeds were forgotten. Until a day later, when the wind roused Jose's father at night. He feared that some of those watermelon seeds might be blown into their field. Do you guys know what's going to happen next? Uh-oh. By moonlight, he carried the bowl to the edge of his field, and he tossed the seeds. The wind caught those seeds and carried them and didn't let them loose until they fell like rain on the town. Do you guys know what's going to happen next year? Watermelons are going to grow. The watermelon seeds slipped into straw roofs and settled into flower pots and sprinkled gardens and slid into the soil around the statue of Jose and his brothers. And that seemed to be the end of it. But not until the next year. Okay, my question for you, and I'm going to look in my book here, is what type of pumpkin would you like to have and why? Would you like to have the Jack B. Littles? Remember, those are the itty-bitty, teeny, tiny ones. Would you like to have the Happy Jacks, which were bigger, kind of like what we would carve jack-o'-lanterns out of and make pumpkin pies? Or would you like the really big moons? So the Jack B. Littles, the Happy Jack, or the Happy Moon? Which pumpkin would you like and why? And what would you do with that pumpkin? Bye, friends.